Good morning, listeners, and I hope I find you very well on this beautiful but again rather hot Thursday morning. Today we are going to explore time management, and time management with a particular focus on avoiding stress and anxiety. Okay, that said, what causes stress and anxiety? I see so much of it in my practice. Clients come to me and they are so stressed, they are anxious, they feel they are not coping, they feel their lives are out of control and they haven't got control over things, as they say, a grip on things. Now, apart from I am removing clinical diagnosis of someone who's been diagnosed with perhaps depression with underlying anxiety or vice versa, because depression and anxiety often go together. Now, today we are talking about stress and anxiety, which could lead to depression, but I want to specifically focus on avoiding stress and anxiety as a result of poor time management. So, as I say, a lot of clients come into my office with those complaints. They feel overwhelmed, they're not coping, life is out of control, etc., etc. And once we start exploring, then in a lot of the situations, I find that the individual is really not planning their time properly, their day, their week, their month. And that then leads to a lot of running around, a lot of panicking, a lot of stress, etc., etc. So, listeners, we've all been there. We've all been guilty of that, let's be honest. But hopefully you learn from that and you reach a point where you say, I cannot just fumble my way through the day and through life. It causes too much stress and anxiety for me and for everybody. I want to say in your sphere, people you have contact with, people you work with, friends and family. So let's take it on the home front. Have you ever been late for a family function or a gathering, or you've held a gathering, you've inviting people over, and there's always this one person who comes late, who just arrives there. You know, everybody's already settled down, the conversation's flowing, and Peter or Susie's not there, and they rush in late. Sorry, here I am. And you kind of ticked off because everybody else can be here. Why can't you? And of course, the latecomer is stressed because he or she's thinking, I've got to get there. And they are rushing around, grabbing at things, and they arrive there in a froth. So even on the home front, it starts. If you have a friend who's always running late, or you are the one running late, it causes stress and anxiety. And it tends to sour relationships and occasions. So the occasion is spoiled because a certain individual arrived late. And over time, it will spoil the relationship, and you tend then not to invite that person because they just sour the relationship. You know, everybody else can be there on time and things can get moving and going, and this particular individual, as I say, let's call it Peter or Susie, is always late. So, you know, it's always the Johnny come lately who, what's been going on while I was gone? And now everybody has to rehash the conversation for their benefit. So you tend to not invite them. You start excluding them. And then that person may wonder, well, I wonder why I'm not being invited anymore. I wonder why I haven't seen so-and-so in a while. And they forget to turn inwards and say, well, maybe it is because of my tardiness, my continual arriving late or not being ready if I'm being collected. And it just shows a lack of respect and consideration for other people's time and energy that they put in. So even in social relationships, that lack of planning and that lack of time management causes a lot of unhappiness. And we won't even go if you're late to pick up your date and she's ready and waiting and you're not, or he comes to pick you up and you still haven't done your hair and the makeup and so on and so forth, and he's kind of pacing up and down while you are trying to get yourself together, it's poor form. Let's just call it what it is. It's poor form. Then our young people at school. The youngster is always arriving late at school, and often that is, I have to say again, mom or dad who can't get their act together. But also the little guy is allowed to get up late, and then they are late having breakfast, and then they've still got to go and brush their teeth, and then the shoes still have to be tied. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking, and then again, the youngster arrives late at school. It's always running in. His mates have been relaxing. They've been chatting on the playground, maybe having a quick game of whatever, cricket or ball game or whatever, or just chilling and relaxing, starting the day in a relaxed fashion. This youngster flies in through the school gates, throws his bag down, only just makes it to class or assembly, huffing and puffing, and the day starts on a bad note, on an anxious note, on a disheveled note. So your youngster starts the day at a disadvantage, whereas the other children have been settled, they've put their bag down, they've met their mates on the playing ground or wherever, and they have eased into their day. So you're not doing your child a favor by allowing them to be tardy, to have poor time management so young. It becomes a habit, it becomes a pattern that will sabotage them going forward. So parents, if you've got a youngster who is that that young person who can't get out of bed and can't get their uniform on and just can't get their teeth brushed and the breakfast, you have to start being a little bit tougher and cracking the whip and teaching them. And once they get into it, and that becomes a new habit, right? Then they'll enjoy it. Get up early, come through to the kitchen, relax, can chat over breakfast, and know he's got all the necessary books packed in his or her bag and so on, and go to school relaxed. Not, oh dear, my maths book's still lying in the lounge and my geography book is in the bedroom. Oh, did I pack my maths set, have I got my equipment to do whatever I need to do? And all those stresses are avoided, which causes, if it persists, absenteeism. Your child wakes up and he thinks, I'm so ill prepared for the day, I'm running so late, I'm just going to fake a tummy ache and stay at home. And so that starts a pattern. I can just duck and dive if I haven't been responsible for my own behavior and time management. And this leads to situations at work where people, they stress at work, they cannot meet a deadline, they're not ready for the meeting, and so they just stay at home and phone in sick. But it causes stress and anxiety. And again, your friends at school start being irritated with you because you're always the late one, the disorganized one, the one who wants a favor. Can you help me with something? And the same at work. Your co-workers think, well, we have to pick up the slack because Susie or Peter is off sick, because I bet you a pound to a pinch of salt that he or she has not completed the task or won't meet this deadline. Your superiors are starting to get irritated. And so it affects your possibilities for promotion. It affects your references you'll get should you be applying for another job and you want to use a colleague or a superior for a reference. And of course, it can lead to dismissal for incapacity. If you prove you're incapable of meeting the demands of the position, of meeting the demands of the job, you can be dismissed for incapacity. There is, of course, a whole process attached to that, but it has happened and it can happen. So, listeners, if I can just say to you, plan. Failing to plan leads to stress and anxiety, and failing to plan is indicative of poor self-discipline. And the individual who hasn't got self-discipline, who cannot plan, who cannot prioritize, has a pretty miserable life ahead of them, because there is this constant underlying stress and anxiety. And that constant underlying stress and anxiety can lead to depression, can lead to poor sleeping, poor eating habits, undermines relationships, personal and professional, and of course can lead to health issues. You have ulcers, you start having irregular heartbeat because your heart is racing, you are now anxious, and all sorts of other health issues that go with it. It affects your ability to concentrate, to express yourself, to absorb and retain information, because you are just stressed. And we all know when you're panicking, you can't always think of the appropriate response if you ask something, because your mental state is not relaxed. It's in the fight or flight mode rather than the I'm planning a strategy mode. I need to plan the strategy. I need to plan my answer. I need to plan my response. So look at the stress in your life, the anxiety, and ask yourself, is this my fault and due to my bad planning and bad time management? Then there is a wonderful Afrikaans expression I want to share with you. And it's called die klein jakkalsies. And die klein jakkalsies are the little foxes that run around your fields and cause havoc with your crops. And because they're little, you think, well, they're just little, they're babies, it's not the adults. We'll just leave them be, but they cause havoc. And this is often our little habits, the little things we overlook, the little things we fail to do, that wreak havoc with our daily, weekly, monthly planning, with our life choices, and with our quality of life, that has far-reaching implications. So how about looking at those little foxes? How about if you find the mornings are your stressful time, that you think, well, I am going to start getting up 10 minutes earlier. So instead of getting up at 6 o'clock, I'm going to get up at 10 to 6, or whatever your time slot is, if that is your stress period. If you find that you come home in the evenings and you rushed and you battling to get things done and so on, ask yourself, how can I make this easier for myself? Can I, over the weekend, do some basic meal preps for the week? Can I, in the evenings, decide what I'm going to wear the next day and make sure it is ready to wear, or my uniform is ready to wear the next day, and I don't wake up and think, oh, my blazer is not ready, I haven't got a clean shirt in my cupboard, or I was going to wear something and now it's in the wash, and that just throws the whole morning out. Because we know, particularly ladies, we know how we can scratch like a chicken in a new run if we don't know what to wear, and it can just delay us and also put us in a rather touchy mood. So those are little things we can do that make our lives easier, and do it for a while, and it becomes a total habit. You organize the night before in the morning. If it is school lunches you need to make, Mom, or if you are a youngster who makes your own school lunches, if you don't make them the night before but like them made fresh in the morning, but the night before you can put out, or at least identify what you're going to put on your lunch in the morning, make sure it's ready, make sure it's available. Because otherwise you wake up in the morning and you think, well, I think I shall have some peanut butter on my sandwiches, and lo and behold, there is now no peanut butter. So now it is, why is there no peanut butter? What am I going to put on my samis? And it becomes a stressful situation, and again, everybody starts the day on the wrong foot. So look at the little foxes, look at the little things you can do to make your life easier, to make it more comfortable, to add quality to your life, and to free your emotions and your mental capacity up for more important things. So time management is crucial for avoiding stress and anxiety and alleviating it if you're already stressed and anxious. If you have got a demanding job, be sure to plan ahead. Be sure to, as far as possible. And sometimes I know we're dependent on other people to provide certain things before we can plan. But then make sure you put some gentle pressure on them to be organized, so that you can plan your activities and have the weekly, monthly planner organized and you're on target with what you need to achieve. That way, you can achieve so much more without the stress and anxiety. And if we look at people in history, listeners, who have achieved amazing things in their lifetime, and you ask yourself, how do they do it? They only had 24 hours in a day, same as you and me. It was their planning and their self-discipline that got them to achieve these wonderful things. I listened to an interview the other day with a woman who is a stand-up comedian. She's a full-time investigative reporter. She has an amazing hobby. She has a family, a rich family life, and all these things. How does she cram all that into 24 hours? And you know what? It's time management, discipline, and being able to prioritize. And that way she is leading the most interesting, fulfilling life. And she's not unraveling at the seams. She is enjoying every minute of her life and every minute of all those experiences. So listeners, if you need help with it, feel free to contact me. You have my contact details. For those who haven't, my phone is 082-330-2439. And next week we are talking about remaining creative, remaining innovative, and finding the inspiration to come up with those new and wonderful ideas. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was useful. Please send in requests for what is interesting and important and perplexing to you, and together we shall unpack it and unravel it and come to a better understanding about how our life works and what makes it meaningful. Have a fantastic day. Enjoy the weekend ahead, and I will see you next week on the flip side.
The radio station you can't live without. This is your radio.
This is South Coast Radio.